Sean, you've got your new data insights that you're revealing at ISE. What new information can you tell us about the markets and what's changed from last year?
Sure, we do a refresh of our IOTA study every year, our industry outlook trends analysis, to kind of keep up with what's going on in the marketplace. We refreshed last year and are now talking about really the EMEA space and kind of what's happening here to set the context for ISE. I think the story that hasn't really been told in the past, we come to trade shows, we come to ISE, we go to Infocom, we go to more local events, and what we're often missing is that context of how big is this market opportunity, what's involved, what's growing, those kinds of things. So we're saying a couple things. One is EMEA, though there's certainly economic challenges. We know Brexit, trade issues, the possibility of recession. Despite all of that, we continue to grow, and we're growing well. So if GDP, for example, is say 2 points of growth expected, we're seeing the market for Pro AV actually grow at double that. So in EMEA, we're expecting Pro AV to grow from the $55.9 billion market it is today, with all the product services included, by about 4 to 5% over the next 5 years. So double the rate, really, of what is happening at GDP.
And what do you feel is behind that?
Lots of things. I think we have you start with the story of diversity. I think one of the beauties of Pro AV globally, EMEA included, is that we serve so many different markets. If you think about an economy, government, healthcare, education, transportation, hospitality, AV shows up in all those places and is facilitating, augmenting, enhancing experiences. We live in an experience economy. As consumers, we expect more and more for our dollars out. We want to be engaged. So that's fundamental ingredient for our space, because technology can enhance that and play a role in offering that. So I think as a general theme, that's true almost no matter where we are. There's obviously evolutions, continued iterations in technology, displays becoming bigger, thinner, higher resolution, more affordable, AV over IP maturing beyond where it was, continuing to iterate. All those are ingredients that allow us to build out those exceptional experiences. Yeah.
I was wondering whether now we're potentially thinking of linking together lots of different technologies in these ecosystems we seem to describe as the collections of products that work together as a solution in an environment, whether that may be driving multiple sales of products, even though the problem we've had so far is that people tend to be buying less because they're stripping out what they would normally have in an AV environment. I feel that's about to be contrasted with this combination of environmental buying and as AV becomes a little more strategic. Or am I jumping the gun, do you feel here?
No, I think
any kind of response to the market would be really useful to know.
I think you're right. I think so. We were talking a lot about the transition away from a product-based ecosystem and industry, where probably the best examples even on the consumer side, where you go into retail, you're looking at boxes, you're buying boxes. Our trade show, our industries tended to be very focused on sale of specific technology for very specific need. We may have made a little bit of money on the integration of those products in the space. But what we're realizing is that's commoditized now. To just bring, sell, and install a specific technology is not enough as a provider anymore. You have to be thinking more strategically, more about the brand, the total experience that the company, the decision maker, the end user is desiring for their ultimate end user, and figuring out how we link in to the ultimate drivers of that solution. If I'm going to a concert, for example, I've got to be able to hear it, I want to be able to see it, I want to be able to interact with it on my phone, I want maybe augmented reality to kind of enhance my experience. So all that stuff means, as a provider, we're stepping back and taking a bigger picture at the full experience and working with the client to determine the best way to integrate technology, not just what specific technologies, but how the full slate of them can operate together and even work outside, because we now have the ability to distribute the content at an event, for example, out to audiences that are not even there. So yes, I think it's thinking bigger picture to get more value proposition and move away from just sale of hardware, more towards service and support. Yeah.
Because you feel we're a bit of a league away from service. I mean, it's tough making money in the AV industry at the moment until, we're looking at lower and lower margins, generally speaking. So I think we're looking at this added value type of service that companies can provide for their end users. But it's a tough gig. It's you've got to see the channel change a bit to be able to offer it effectively, and you've got to do it to scale, presumably.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's forcing a shift in the skill sets that we have in companies as providers. In the simplest form, you talk to people that come to ISE or Infocom, and one of the things they say is, "I'm here to learn about IP-based distribution and IP networks and standards and protocols," as a very specific skill set that allows them to figure out how to work better with the infrastructure to support the needs of AV distribution throughout a venue. So we're having to adapt. We're having to change the types of resources that we have. We're trying to bring in more creatives to feed the systems that we're installing with content through time, design. So all of that is a real shift, and there's no doubt that is not a snap of the fingers, easy overnight transition, and it doesn't mean that there isn't still some opportunity on the very straightforward, pull and replace installation type of business. Arguably, though, as you said, the margins on that become harder and harder because there's plenty of competitors out there who can pitch, very low cost of resource to do that kind of simple work. So it's forcing companies upstream to get engaged earlier, to change their conversation to design, to expand their capabilities, all that sort of stuff. And it's easy to say. It's easy to be the Monday morning quarterback and sit on the sidelines and say, "Oh, you just have to do this." But I think we all recognize it's a long process. Yeah.
And the growth areas that are going to be growing, or you identify to grow in the next few years, we just identified. What do you think is going to be the highlight of the AV industry? Anything that particularly stands out, and any particular country you feel is sort of shining out more than any other?
There's a couple of easy answers to that. So one of them that we've all been talking about conferencing collaboration for a long time now, and it is the largest solution area for Pro AV, even in EMEA, pretty much in every global market that there is. But what's coming up fast is digital signage. That is, you see it here at the show. There's a tremendous number of companies that are here displaying the new product sets to support digital signage. We expect, while it's number 2 right now, that it quickly becomes the largest solution area for Pro AV by 2024. Some other areas are growing fast: control rooms, cinema, performance entertainment. Those are some highlights as well, but nothing quite on the scale of this digital signage opportunity.
Well, we seem to be going through a period of what they call digital transformation. Yeah, another buzz to Hades buzz term. But it seems more and more obvious that AV is a central part of this, and they're even talking strategically about visual metaphors of the screen being the centre of a working place or a meeting place, and they're using digital metaphors to describe the relative of the technology within it, which seems to me very significant. You wouldn't be saying that about AV 8 years ago, 9 years ago, whatever it is. So the fact that they're thinking it as part of a much bigger picture and that they're formalising seems to me quite significant.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the back-end infrastructure is that digital architecture that we're harvesting, and now realizing that we have time and place independence. We can distribute content, we can share content, we can engage audiences even remotely, on-prem, remote, etc. But at the end, the strength of AV is you and I, all of us, are analog creatures. We have to have that final translation to sight, sound, etc., so that we are fully immersed in the experience. And that's the beauty of our industry. We're now being asked and required to expand beyond just our AV analog component part and learn the language of digital to be able to harness that capability, IoT, another buzzword trend that's thrown around. Ultimately, the idea, though, is just connectivity between devices, places, environments to allow us to engage across those. And AV plays a pivotal role in that, for sure. Yeah.
And an essential role also is the transference and movement of staff in between different disciplines and markets. And when you're looking at that, it's useful to have an idea of how much you're paying people and how transferable that view of people's salaries are. And I don't think anybody's done a kind of global review of salaries and how the industry is being mapped in quite the same way. I mean, how much work is there involved in that?
Yeah, I think what you're pointing to is, as we're talking about this need for new skills, this opportunity for new types of providers to emerge, as an industry, we want to understand what is being demanded of us as an industry so that we can equip our people, our resources, our employees with the right skill sets. So there's two reasons to track all that, and as an organization, we're doing research around what are the skill sets that people are adding into their resumes, their portfolio. How is that translating into difference of compensation? Because all that is, as an industry association, we can act then as a beacon to, hey, there's an opportunity here as an individual and as a company to expand your capabilities at both levels to be able to go after that growth. Tremendously difficult research, but it ultimately requires the involvement at a very grassroots level of collectively saying, we want to better understand this for personal benefit, but also company benefit and industry benefit, so we can harness the opportunities out there that exist. CTS plays a role in that. How much does CTS impact compensation? How do we need to change CTS and education to fit the needs of the marketplace? But at the fundamental core, it's a data project. It's sharing information, being comfortable with that sharing for mutual benefit, and that's what it's all about at the end. Yeah, another tall order, but certainly something we want to and are taking on in our own research over the coming year to highlight that a little bit better. Yeah.